Well, we are now witnessing some nice green throughout the market for once, which is a very good change. Now, is it too early to call things? Yeah, I do think so. We have, a big week in front of us. We have a lot of discussions ongoing around tariffs still in the trade war. If we do start to see some positive developments around the trade war, some deals being made, then I do believe that this is the week that we start the next big wave to the upside. Now, to really kind of back that, I do have a lot more information to go over, including, of course, talks about a supply shock hitting the space in a big way. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So yes, the overall market has been pretty green for the most part. And even in the last week, we've actually had a pretty good week for crypto, which is good to see after having such a, rough month. I mean, the month itself is actually pretty red. And to see some green, it's a nice change. And I'm going to take any sort of, green that we can get at this point. But also, XRP has been doing a very good job bouncing off of the lows of roughly like sub $2 yet again, or at least around like $2.05 or so. This is what the last month looks like. So we did hit that sub $2 level back in the beginning of the month. And since then, we have bounced from like $1.60 some to about over $2. And we did hit like $2.22 back in the middle of April, but now we're sitting at about roughly $2.12 at the current moment in time that I am recording this, which I am recording this a little bit earlier in the day. But outside of that, I've also been looking at trading volume, and trading volume around XRP is up about 68%. Throughout the space, by the way, trading volume is picking up, which is very good to see. Crypto market cap, 2.75 trillion. We see Bitcoin, up about 3.5% or so. Trading volume on Bitcoin also up about 85, almost 86%. And Ethereum kind of matching that. Ethereum's overall trading volume is up about 49% as well. So, some nice gains throughout the space. 24-hour span. This is what the 24-hour span looks like in terms of some of those gains. The 7-day span as well. But outside of that, yeah, let's actually talk a little bit more about XRP. I have been focused on Fiat Leak a little bit, just really kind of seeing how much XRP is being traded, some volume, insights as well. And overall, XRP has been getting bought up quite a bit. We also know that the amount of wallets and addresses holding XRP has been significantly increasing as well. Big shout out to XRP Daily for this. We have the number of XRP addresses holding at least one XRP has reached an all-time high of 6.26 million addresses. XRP futures trading volume has also reached a monthly high of $21.62 billion, which we'd love to see. And again, the overall space, if we actually look at this, okay, and we look at some of the columns here, so if we want to actually see the volume in the last 30 days, we could actually see that. And let me add this real quick to the chart. So if we look at the last 30-day trading volume of a lot of this space, last 30 days in terms of XRP, over 76, almost $77 billion traded on XRP alone in the last 30 days. And we could see Ethereum and also Bitcoin making up over $700 billion worth of trading volume in just the last 30 days alone. And this is showing us that there's a lot of momentum behind this space right now. And there's a lot of trading in general happening, even through stablecoins. Like if you actually think about, how much trading volume there is for like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and things like that. Look at Tether, $3.6 trillion in terms of trading volume, which means there has been a lot of selling pressure in the space. There's been a lot of buying pressure. Overall, the space is still very well alive. But the reason why I bring up trading volume is because, a lot of people are wondering like, all right, well, is everyone out of this space at this point? Like, is retail just avoiding crypto? Is there anyone actually still here? The answer is yes. There's still a very large active participation within this space, actively trading 24/7. And this is very good to see. And in terms of XRP, yeah, XRP is making up a big piece of the trading volume. And there's still a lot of action happening around XRP. Now, in terms of Bitcoin, I have been focused on Bitcoin over the last month. The key thing here that I'm actually watching on the chart is we're now back to those significant levels from the end of March in which we did reject off of, leading to this cascade down to like $75,000 roughly. I want to see us break over these highs, which would take us to about almost $90,000 to break over these highs. If we can manage to do that, then I do think that the next target from that point is $95,000, $96,000. And then after that, 100K plus. So like I said, this could be the start. If we see a positive week for tariffs and the trade war discussions, then this could be the week that everything does change around crypto, just like I have been warning about for the last couple days. Now, on top of this, what about the Bitcoin left on exchanges? So I saw a post on X, and it was actually from Martini Guy YouTube, and we have Justin, Bitcoin all exchange reserves have dropped to the lowest level ever. Supply shock is incoming. So when we think about this, okay, I want to talk about this. All right, first off, the supply shock. Is there going to be a supply shock around Bitcoin? Let's just say Bitcoin. I do think that the supply metrics is very crucial to focus on because obviously supply and demand, right? This will lead to Bitcoin rising significantly in value. How do we know that? We'll go back to, January of 2024, right? On this chart, if you actually look at the January 2024 timeframe, so we could actually see it down here on the bottom, and we could see what we were trading at during that time. All right, Bitcoin did run up a little bit to roughly almost like $50,000 back in the beginning of January. This is when we heard the ETF discussions and the announcement as well. We sold off. But if you actually look at the exchange reserves, from that sell-off, they continued to cascade. And during that time, we continued to rise to almost $73,000, $74,000. And then during that entire sell-off from roughly the beginning of March, all the way through the summer into September and October and November, look at the reserves on exchanges. They cascaded. That's what led to that massive push to 100K plus. But here's the thing. While we have been selling off from 100K plus down to like the mid 70K region, look at that massive cascade of the exchange reserves. This is telling us that we are about to have a big move on Bitcoin realize in. This is why I also think now is probably one of the best times to focus on Bitcoin dominance, because I do think that this is going to lead to alt season. I think that this next big impulsive move on Bitcoin is going to be the one where we start to see Bitcoin dominance being usurped for Ethereum and altcoins. And this is also where I do think that XRP starts to shock a lot of people. Now, on top of that, what's going to support this big rally on Bitcoin outside of just the exchange reserves? Well, it's the Fed printing money. And a lot of people have been asking me like, Nick, why do you think this is going to happen? Well, guess what? China, Japan, and the EU already started to print. Marty Party already posted about this. We have global liquidity update, China, Japan, and the EU M2 money supply increasing. Yeah, they all started to print money now. And the question is, where's the Fed? Well, talking about the Fed, okay, first off, M2 supply with Bitcoin. We've talked about this, all right? This is a factor that I keep talking about because this is already telling us that this next surge on Bitcoin is coming. We already have the reserves. We already have the M2 supply increasing outside of the US, and this is leading us to also the true inflation. So we have here from Anthony Pompliano, Trueflation is reporting inflation at 1.4%, which is significantly lower than the Fed's target level. The Fed should be cutting interest rates right now because Trueflation is showing us 1.42. Now, if we're going off of that, if we see the Fed cut rates and we start to see the M2 supply in the US increasing significantly, we are going to see liquidity flood these markets. This is something that I have been warning about over the last few weeks because this is something that I personally believe is going to happen. Now, you might say, all right, well, we can't just go off of what, other players like China, Japan, and the EU are doing to support this argument. But I question this. Why can't we? When we think about what's going on here, this is the exact same scenario of 2020, or even going back to roughly like 2016. This has played out previously many times. When we start to see China, the EU, Japan, all starting to print, you definitely can bet on the Fed printing as well. And the fact that the environment right now is perfect for the Fed to print because of the inflation numbers, they are going to print. And what better time than now to flood the market with fresh liquidity when stocks are still down? The market needs to have an injection of liquidity. What better time than now? On top of that, talking about the Fed cutting interest rates, just recently in the beginning of April, the odds of an interest rate cut at the May FOMC meeting soared to about 55%, right? We have it here, 55.6%. Now, what's crazy about this is everyone flipped on this. We are now, by the way, 16 days away from the FOMC meeting. We are now at 11%. So what changed during that entire time? Well, retail changed their mind. They actually don't think that the Fed is going to cut. Even under this post, you can see not going to happen, right? Like, people think that the Fed is not going to cut at all. I personally believe we get the rate cut in May in 16 days. From that point on, we are going to see major moves from the Fed. Not just printing money, right? Not just liquidity injections, but also additional moves on top of that. When we are talking about the environment right now around the US markets, it could not be a better time for the Fed to continue doing what the Fed does best: print money. I mean, at this point in time, when we think about the entire market, right, for crypto, for stocks, the dollar has been, crashing. On top of the dollar crashing, yes, everyone is still concerned about the bond market. The Fed is going to cut. And by the way, May is a perfect time for the Fed to cut. Why? Because they're also late to the party. This is why we're starting to see, other nations starting to print money. The Fed is always late. Trump even said that the Fed is always late in terms of, Powell. This is why I think that we start to cut interest rates in May. We start to print around May into June. Liquidity injection hits the market in a big way. We see a surge around risk on assets because the dollar has already been, collapsing. That's your fresh bull market. That's your big wave, your alt season. And from that point on, we really kind of look for a top somewhere around maybe the fall timeframe, maybe even January of 2026. It would make a lot of sense. And it really kind of supports my thought process on where we are at right now, cyclical wise. So we're definitely going to be watching this in 16 days to see what the Fed does. I think that this is going to be one of the most important FOMC meetings that we could actually, really focus on. I think that everyone should focus on it. But at the end of the day, the environment right now around crypto is extremely bullish, especially for XRP. I think everyone should be focused on XRP in a big way. I think that this next wave on XRP is going to be very large, especially concerning, if Bitcoin does rally to 140K by roughly January, July timeframe, while Bitcoin dominance is dropping heavy, that's going to be very bullish. But my outlook here is still about roughly the fall timeframe. I think that by fall, everyone is going to be very happy with crypto because of just the overall environment right now and the time frame that I think it takes for the Fed to finally start the printing press and get those liquidity injections into the traditional markets. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.